So welcome everybody. My name is Andrea Miller. I'm the founding board member and the executive director of Center for Common Ground. A number of people know us and know our work through our Reclaim Our Vote campaign, our CSA election protection campaign, our internship program, Students for Justice, and our board members' Equal Rights Amendment campaign, Vote Equality. Tonight, we're really going to be focusing on Reclaim Our Vote, what we are doing on the GOTV side, and then also this is going to be a really rough election year, especially in the southern states. There is really going to be a need for our election protection tool. See something, say something. So, for those of you who might be new, Center for Common Ground was founded to educate and empower underrepresented voters. What's an underrepresented voter? Oh, the BIPOC community, people who look like me, who live in voter suppression states. We want them to be able to A, engage in elections, and B, advocate for their right to vote. Together, we can build a democracy that prioritizes the voices of all people. And I love this little tagline that they have in the great state of Mississippi, where my father is from. All means all, y'all. Now, in 2020, we're going to take a quick trip down memory lane, look into the past. We contacted a total of 14 million voters, 9.4 million by postcards, 2.9 million by text message, and 1.7 million by phone. In 2024, our goal is to reach 18 million voters, 12.5 million by postcard, 3.5 million text messages, and 2.5 million phone calls. Now, some of the products that we will be using, we use PDI, political data intelligence, for our phone banks. We are going to be looking at their new texting tools. Somebody invents something new, I've got to go look at it. We just tried out the text out program for the Alabama primary in Congressional District 2, their new majority minority district in Alabama. We will also be using Outreach Circle or some peer-to-peer texting as well. Now, what we're going to be doing, where we're going to be doing it, and what these states look like. Now, Virginia postcarding is going to launch tomorrow. The postcard team is here. They will give you more details. Now, Virginia overall as a state has 865,000 Black voters. And Black voters, these are registered voters, meaning if they held an election tomorrow, these people could vote in it. 15.13% of the voting population in Virginia happens to be Black. Now, for the primary, we are going to be working in district for postcards in district 1, 2, 5, 7, and 10. Now, the congressional primary in Virginia is June 18th. Virginia has 45 days of early voting. So early voting in Virginia is going to start on May 4th. Interestingly enough, for the presidential primary, totally different election, that will be on May 5th, on March 5th. Virginia is a Super Tuesday state. Rick and I went to vote yesterday morning. There is only one early voting location in our county. Our county is in the 7th district. We have 22,000 voters. We were not doing any turnout for the presidential primary. I was voter number 180 and Rick was voter number 181. This is out of 22,000 voters that live in the county. So we're going to actually compare what this turnout looked like in 2024 when we do turn out for a primary election versus when we don't. So that, I think, is going to be an interesting lesson, especially since this was a presidential primary. All right. Now, the great state of Georgia. Georgia has 2.5 million Black voters, or 34% of the population of Georgia identifies as Black. And when you look at the great state of Georgia, you can see that in Atlanta, these are just Black voters. This is not Democrat, Republican. These are Black voters. It is really, really dark blue. And then when you look around the state, you see patches of dark blue, Augusta, Columbus, Warner Robins, and down in Savannah. So we will be working in the state of Georgia. Now, for the primary, we are looking at CD6, which is Lucy McBath's district. And it's a very interesting district because Georgia just redrew their district lines. So we are doing turnout on the brand new CD6, which totally went from the south side of Atlanta to the north side of Atlanta, because we have a huge collection of Black voters. Language and words are very, very important. When Georgia was ordered to redraw their district lines and create a new Black district, new and additional are two totally different emotions. So Ray McClendon is here, and I'm going to have Ray join me and talk a little bit more about what is going on in Georgia. So their congressional primary is May 21st. In these two seats, there are so many candidates that we know both of them are going to go to a runoff. So Ray, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let you talk about and give us some more insights into Georgia and what happened with redistricting.
Thanks so much. Excuse me, Andrea. And as, as always, it's great to be with you and with your extraordinary staff and volunteers and all of you who believe in democracy and believe that it should work, as you said in one of your earlier slides, that it should work for all. And, you know, we were a part of redistricting. The maps had to be re-adjudicated. And we were excited about the adjudication initially because we thought we would be picking up, as Andrea mentioned, that it would be an add to. But the Republicans, as they often are, were devious and shrewd. And so what they did was they took the seat in the northeastern suburb of Atlanta. The map that she just showed where there was no blue, that was the district that Lucy McBath won. Now, to give you the history, previously, they redrew the maps when Lucy McBath was in the old sixth, which was in Northwest. They redrew that to draw her out. She went to the new sixth in Northeast, Metro Atlanta, won that. And that's a very diverse district. It is not majority Black, but it is majority minority. Gwinnett has a very strong AAPI, Hispanic, as well as Black population. And they formed a coalition which put Lucy McBath in office. So they were very smart. The Republicans were very smart. They said, okay, the language says we just need another Black district. So they redrew Lucy out of that district that she was in and created a new Black district, but diluted the one that she was previously in. So the net result is that they are not giving up an additional seat unless we can form a coalition now in a majority minority district that had previously been majority minority in our favor. So that's point number one. Point number two, in the redrawing of the 13th is a great opportunity for some new leadership. We have some dynamic folks running in that district that we all know and love, that are a part of this family. So we know that coming out of that, and there are a couple other folks that we know that are running there, and we think that there'll be at least one, and we hope a couple of the folks that we really have high hopes for will be in a runoff in 13. Further across the state, there may be some other places in play that we'll be looking to as well. But from a broader perspective, when it comes to the presidential race, we've identified 54 counties out of 159 counties in Georgia represent 90% of the Black vote. And the coalition that we will be working with Andrea and the Center for Common Ground on in Georgia will be targeting those 54 counties, putting resources and infrastructure into those counties in order to increase Black voter turnout. If we can increase Black voter turnout by approximately 10%, we can ensure victory of progressives in several of these local races and state legislative races that can really begin to turn the tide in the state capitol, as well as ensure victory at the presidential level. So we're excited about all of the new tools that the Center for Common Ground is bringing to the table. We're excited about ramping up with all of the different digital platform capability, as well as postcarding, so that we can ensure victory. You know, a lot of us were disappointed yesterday when the Supreme Court decided that they, in effect, de facto, were going to ensure that Trump, in all likelihood, will not see any justice served before the election. And to quote Eric Holder, the cavalry is not coming to save us. I'll just add something else to it and say, we are the cavalry. We are the cavalry that must come. We are the army that's got to go to work and to deliver the message that corruption, turning the clock back is not going to work on our watch, and we're going to make a difference in these states.
Thank you, Ray. I always get inspired when you speak. So thank you very, very much. Now, in Virginia, since our state races and municipal races are normally in off years, the main thing that we're going to see on the ballot in um June are going to be our congressional races. That really is what we're going to see. And yes, Katie, we are the cavalry. We are the ones who have come to save ourselves. So, yes. All right. I want to go back to my presentation and let's look at how Georgia looks very, very different than Virginia in terms of what's going to be on the ballot. So in Georgia, they've got their 14 US House seats, two public service commissioners, the Georgia State Senate. Ray, is the entire state Senate up again, or just some of it?
The
That
entire
always
Senate,
confuses
yeah,
me.
the entire Senate and House.
All right, so all 56 state Senate seats and all 180 House seats. There will be 4 state Supreme Court seats and 6 state appellate court seats. So there is a lot going on in Georgia that will impact the state for years to come. And then on top of all this, there are school board races happening in Cherokee, Clayton, Cobb, DeKalb, Forsyth, Fulton, Gwinnett, Henry, Muskogee, and Savannah, Chatham. So one of the things we learned how to do in Virginia through one of the great Virginia activist groups, Rural Ground Game, is we learned how to kind of pack races together and talk about issues from all the different races at once and remind people to vote all the way down the ballot. One of the sayings that I love from Octavia Coleman, who is one of the candidates running for the Georgia 13th district, is the more local the election, the smaller the election, the closer the results are to your front door. And that really is true. So a big focus in 2024 will be go all the way down the ballot. And it's going to be a long way down the ballot in Georgia for a lot of people. Now, we have literally just finished texting today the voters in the brand new, oops, and I've still got the Atlanta map there. The pace didn't work. In the brand new Alabama second congressional district. So there are 950,749 black voters in the great state of Alabama, or 27.116% of their voters are black. Now, the congressional primary, as I said, is March 5th. Alabama does not have early voting. So we were experimenting with a new tool called Text Out that allows us to use variables so that we could literally give people the name of their polling location, as opposed to saying, go here and you can find your polling location. We were able to say your polling location is whatever, give the name. And in most cases, once people got the name of the church or the elementary school, most people are probably going to know where that is. Anyone that had a question could just say polling location, at which point then we give them new text that actually has the address. If it's a slightly different city than the name of the county, now they've got the address and they've got the phone number of the registrar if they've got any questions. Now, the two biggest cities in the Alabama second congressional district are Montgomery and Mobile, Alabama. So Montgomery is the Alabama state capital, and then Mobile is on the southwest side of Alabama, and it is one of their water cities. So again, it's going to be very, very interesting looking at the result in this brand new majority minority district. And what was very, very disappointing was I had to contact several data vendors and tell them, when I go into your system and I ask for the Alabama second congressional district, now they redistricted and were complete with redistricting before the November election. All the other vendors were still showing the old district. So several of them, I actually sent them the maps and said, look, here's the map, put it in, get that straight. All right. Now, this is North Carolina. So I know there's always going to be a lot of people interested in North Carolina. North Carolina has fewer Black voters than Georgia. They've got 1.5 million Black voters. And again, these voters are registered voters. So if the election was held tomorrow, they would be able to vote in it. We just started working with the North Carolina partners, and they are a Super Tuesday state. So we will not be engaging in North Carolina for their primary. What we may have an opportunity, if the folks on the ground in North Carolina choose, would be to engage for their runoff election. Otherwise, we will be working up and saving our powder for the November election. There are a ton of things that are up for election in North Carolina. They have House seats and their state executive officer, governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, secretary of state, superintendent of public instruction, labor, insurance, and agriculture commissioners, as well as their entire state senate, 50 seats, their entire state house, 120 seats, one state Supreme Court, two state appellate court, various school boards, and various municipal elections. So that's what's going to be happening in North Carolina. Now, we believe we are going to have local activists in the three counties in North Carolina that have the largest numbers of Black voters. I met today with voters and activists from Mecklenburg County. So they have 240,000 Black voters. Wake County has 150 Black voters, Guilford 126. The opportunity in Mecklenburg is huge. We did not really work in North Carolina in 2022. We weren't really able to find partners that really wanted to work with us. When we did work with North Carolina in 2020, the turnout among Black voters, and now this is just in the city of Mecklenburg, 163,000 out of 239,000 voters showed up. In 2022, when we really did not work in North Carolina, 97,000 voters showed up. So 28% of the Black voters. We are looking at, do we want to set a goal in 2024 of 180,000 Black voters or their turnout? I say we do, because that means that we will be upping their really good year 2020 by 22,000 votes, and their kind of bad year 2022 by nearly 80,000 votes. So they got very, very, very excited about the concept. Now, we have not done the analysis. We are working on Texas. I have a meeting with Texas tomorrow. So Ray, I'm going to have some information to show the folks in Texas, similar to what we have for North Carolina, to see if they like that direction. We are also, of course, going to work in South Carolina, all the places where we have democracy centers. We are always have to look at Florida. Are we going to be able to get enough people on the ground and enough of our folks that are interested in Florida? And we're also still considering Arizona. What we know for sure is we will be in Virginia, we will be in Georgia, we will be in North Carolina, we will be in Alabama, and we are, I'm going to say with 90% certainty, we are going to be in Texas. There are several other states that are going, wait, what about us? We will be talking to them over the next couple of weeks, figuring out where we can work, who will partner with us, and what will it take to be able to make whatever time and resources we invest worthwhile. Carrie, do you want to talk about postcards? Because we have started postcarding for 2024.
Yes, sure. Let's see. Am I on? Okay. Can you hear me all right?
All right,
So,
we hear you. Yes.
for those who don't know me, I'm Carrie Wheaton and I live in Sonoma County, and I'm in the postcard team, Sonoma County, California, sorry. And a little surprise for you all, Virginia actually launched this afternoon. It was due to launch tomorrow, but the data is in the room, some of it. It's being, packed in there. And but I'm gonna go backwards to Georgia, and then I will explain more. I'm sorry. We have someone coming in the door and everything happening all at once. Of course. So we have report on Virginia. 94% of the data is in the rooms, and 55% is already out with writers. So that's great because it just launched last week. And the total number of addresses we have are 409,000. So 386,000 are in rooms, and 224 with writers, 1,000. And Virginia, we've got 66% of the data in rooms of the 219,000 total addresses, and only 2% is out with writers because the word's just getting out. Let's see, 145,000 in rooms. So more, and that's just the 3 districts, because we started only with let's see, 5, 7, and 10, congressional district 5, 7, and 10. So that's what's in the little volunteer paragraph on your script, only mentions those 3. So the decision was made to add the other 2. So we'll be editing that for, for the next batch that are coming in. And Brian's going to be loading those in over the weekend. And there are a lot of counties, a lot of little counties. So, so that'll be a few days in the making.
All
And
right. Yay.
that's
Okay.
it, I guess.
Carrie, could someone asked what do you mean by in rooms? Could you
I'm
quickly
sorry.
answer that?
Okay, we have this wonderful data room. It's an app called Sincere. Used to be called Voter Letters. They changed the name. We're not sure why. And what the heck? We go with the flow. And people have to be invited to the room, and you can then download your own addresses. And if you have, if you get yourself all set with a bunch of Reclaim Our Vote postcards and the 5160 Avery labels, you can actually print your own labels, put them on postcards, and you can do a whole DIY thing without depending on someone else to
Do
give
it
you.
yourself, DIY, do it yourself.
Yeah, just in case.
Took me forever to figure out what that meant.
Oh, sorry. So yes, so what happens now is that the data gets loaded into these rooms, and there are different rooms for different regions. So for example, we have the California North Coast room that's got a bunch of people from San Francisco North, and there's a Midwest room because some areas we have way fewer volunteers than other areas. There are a bunch of rooms on both coasts, and so if you join one of these rooms, you'll be joining a room regionally with other people. And any other questions?
Carrie or Josie, can you drop the link to the organizer guide in the chat?
I put the postcarding link in actually because
Perfect.
if you go to the postcarding page, you can read all about our postcarding. Carrie put together a great video about just how you postcard with us. And if there's a zip code function now where you type in your zip code and the page will tell you who your regional organizer is. And that is the way to start. Just reach out to them and they'll get you sorted.
Yes,
Yep.
Brian just wrote that program. It's wonderful. Just type in your zip code, and then it tells you who your organizer is and sends you to them. Yes, and a couple more things. Thank you, Katie. The mail dates for the Georgia primary, and it's very important to not mail your postcards before the beginning mail date, because if you mail them too early, way ahead of an election, people are going to go, and put them in a pile, and then things will get piled on top of it, and all that. And it's important, obviously, the other end is the deadline. So we're gearing these mail date ranges around early voting because we really, really recommend early voting for many reasons. One of them is for safety because there's less harassment if you vote early, and intimidation than there is on election day or close to election day. So the mail dates for Georgia are April 22nd to May 9th. And their early voting is April 29th to May 17th. And they have, they have a shorter early voting period than Virginia. Virginia is amazing.
As do most states. Nobody needs 45 days of early voting.
Right. So Virginia, the mail dates are April 26th to June 3rd. So if you're doing Georgia and you're finished, you still might have time to do Virginia if we have addresses left. And early voting is May 3rd to June 15th.
All righty.
All right.
All righty, great. There was a question in the chat, are people registered Democrats or what? As a 501c3, there are no circumstances in life where we can look at a person's political party and decide that we will or we will not contact them based on their political party. everything that we do is 100% based on, are you a member of the BIPOC community? Are you Black, Indigenous, Hispanic, Asian American, Native, Hawaiian, Pacific Islander? It is against the law for us to look at political parties. We look at people by their ethnicity, and that is the only thing we look at. And we win a lot of elections that way. There are so many voters who are independent or not anything at all, and Virginia has no political party registration, that never get included in anybody's outreach, because people are trying to do outreach to Democrats, and you leave hundreds of thousands of voters on the table every year. So,
One,
yeah.
one other thing, Katie mentioned Deep South etiquette, and usually in Georgia and the deep southern states, we use Deep South etiquette. But in this particular situation, our voters are right around the Atlanta, metro region and suburbs. And so we're not, so we're addressing them as Ms., not Miss. But it's all those instructions are on your script. And please read your guidelines, even though if you've seen it a million times, it's good to review it, because a lot of questions are answered there. It's like a FAQ, frequently asked questions, right there on the cover page of your packet, if you have a packet, or if you get it emailed, it'll be in your email. All those things are still true and still apply. So when in doubt, look at the instructions on your script. And we have the card, the sample card document where we just have a suggestion of how to lay it out. It's not a mandate, it's just a suggestion to save time, because we were finding that writers were practicing on other paper because they didn't want to waste the postcards. We thought, hey, maybe we could save you some trouble.
Right.
Anything
so
else?
Everything fits nicely and looks very, very good. And we want everybody to know the postcard team, it takes hours to get our information into our system. Every registrar's phone number is called and verified that that number reaches someone in that county who can answer questions about voting. We are very, very careful with the information that goes on our postcards, because we know we are reaching out to voters who we may be the only information they get about an election, for a number of different reasons. So we want to make certain that our information is correct. Yes.
And I had a question direct to me about when texting and phone banking will start up again.
Yeah.
All right.
Before we move on to
Okay.
that, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting 'cause I'm not on the camera. I saw one question earlier. Maybe we should address it now because it's related to postcarding. Are we going to be postcarding for any of the runoff elections, for the primaries? So,
we have not decided. I'm going to say it depends on whether or not our writers are really enthusiastic about it. Preferably, I would say we will do runoffs in the general. I don't know about a runoff or a primary. That kind of really starts to get a bit more partisan than just getting people to vote in the primary. I'll consider it. And I don't know, we may not have time to do the postcards because of the amount of time it takes to load the data and get everything done. We've got a May 21st election with a June 18th runoff. That's pretty compressed time frame. So yeah. I think it may be too close. So if people have the postcards, the team and I will talk about it and we will determine, are we going to try to do postcards for the runoffs? Remember, phone banks and text banks are really rapid to deploy because you don't have to buy supplies. There's no printing. It's just get on the phone, call people with new information, as opposed to now you've got to get supplies. You've got to let people know there's a runoff. That's getting pretty tricky. That's getting pretty tricky. All right.
And
Phone
somebody asked,
banking.
someone asked, will we be postcarding all the way to the November election? Yes, but obviously, if we want the postcards to get there in time for them to vote early, we won't be postcarding in November. We'll be stopping sometime in October.
Right.
And then
remember,
resting because the
Yeah.
Georgia runoff will probably follow.
Georgia will have a runoff. They just always do. And then in Virginia, since the Virginia election is, well, everybody's general election is on the same day. People in Virginia, we start voting in September. So that means we will be loading data for Virginia at the end of July, getting ready to launch the Virginia campaign in August. Gloria, do you want to put your question in the chat? I saw your hand for a minute.
There's another one about the QR code. Another question. Should I
We
take
don't
it?
use QR codes. No.
Well, there's a QR code in the Sincere program
Yes.
that goes on the voter list. But since it's an optional thing, and since a lot of people get confused by it, some organizers have decided to just take it off. So that's why the answers, someone said, where did the QR code go? And somebody said it's there, and someone said it's not there. So, so that's why. And I would love to have a
We don't use QR codes.
Yeah,
right.
I
We
think
did not write the program. It came with the program. That is not something that we use.
So we can talk about this in a postcard meeting about just making it consistent so people aren't confused.
All right. I will do phone banking and texting really, really quickly. Phone banking for Georgia will generally begin. I've got a May 21st election. It will begin toward the end of March. So that, again, we don't want to call people so early that they forget that we called and gave them the information. We've got to be timely about when we give people information. We can text significantly later, so we will begin texting probably at the beginning of May. We have a new program that does broadcast texting where we create the text, we load the data, and the system just sends it automatically. They're really going one by one, but they're being sent by a computer. So interesting ways that they are redefining what peer-to-peer means. And so the courts have decided peer-to-peer does not totally mean, or broadcast does not totally mean that you can't send the text by computer one at a time. So PDI, our standard data vendor, has a new program that they literally are just rolling out. We may look at that for texting because we can use variables and we can send pictures. What do I mean by variables? Well, we have the person's name based on their county. We can tell them what the early voting location is. And so rather than what we normally do, where each county is its own separate texting action, we would now be able to do a congressional district at a time. The cost is really, really high. So again, that will be based on fundraising and how the deliverability is. The first system that we tried, we are not happy with the deliverability. So we look at a lot of different things. We do not ever use dialers with our voting population. We have a lot of older voters. If you don't get to the phone in time, then the dialer moves on to the next person. We leave messages for our voters, and dialers at this point do not allow us to do that. And each one of our phone banks is connected to a real phone, so that when voters have questions, and they do, they call that real phone, and someone calls them back if they don't answer the phone. So a lot of special things that we do. And again, remember, a lot of the voters we're calling, nobody called them. And they get very, very excited that somebody remembered that they're there. Josie can, I've got a couple more slides that I need to go through very, very quickly. So let me finish my presentation and then we can do questions. We are expecting a lot of election problems in this election. We will be doing training on our election problem reporting tool. See something, say something for any group that wants it. This is a product that our board member developed. If you've ever dealt with the 866 hotline, you know that 10, 20 calls can easily overwhelm it. The other issue is a lot of the people that are answering the phone, they decided to really get involved in election protection a month ago, as opposed to they've been doing this for years. So what we tell people to do is, while you are waiting for them to answer your 866 hour vote call, type what's going on in your phone. If you have an opportunity and you're safe, take a picture, shoot a video, and upload all that to our servers. When they answer the phone, you can literally read your report that you just made to them. And when we get your report, if you mark it urgent, we will then call whoever is doing election protection in that jurisdiction and give them that information. In Georgia 2020, when there were problems in Georgia, it took days for the 866 Our Vote people to gather up their information. We were able to forward the information to the Legal Defense Fund literally in a couple of hours. All we had to do was download our data. Now, what Say Something does is it produces a map where you can see what type of incident occurred. They are color coded. You can click on the incident, you can read the description, and if they included a photo or a video, you will be able to see the photo and watch the video. We also know we are really going to need to ensure that voters who need a ride will be able to get one. One of the main reasons people gave in Atlanta in 2020 for not voting was they couldn't get there. So the state of Georgia has an online and a phone number, get a free ride to the polls tools. We have built one that we can use for Virginia. I know Ride Share to Vote originated out of Texas. So we are working with people in states to make sure that the most vulnerable voters will have a way to get to the polls. In Virginia and in North Carolina, we are talking to church groups about activating their church vehicles with the idea that we know they already have the right liability insurance, they've got the drivers. So let's get a schedule together on when they will be taking people to the polls. All right, that was my last slide that I wanted to show. Josie, can you help me curate questions that are in the chat? If there's any that
Yeah.
I haven't answered yet.
I think we got to all of them. I just want to please feel free to put your questions again in the chat if I missed them. I just want to reiterate, all of this information will be sent again in a follow-up email tomorrow. And when we get to the point of launching our phone banks, and if we decide to do bigger text banking, you will get an email with invitations to our trainings for that and dates about where and when you can make those phone calls or send those text messages. So just like with postcarding, we'll make sure to keep you all in the loop. Carrie, I saw you quickly raise your hand.
And I see a question in the chat. What kind of information is on the postcard?
Carrie, you're
Unmute.
You can feel free to answer that, or I'm
Well,
not sure
I'll
if she's
tell you
asking
what.
generally or specifically for these states.
I'm going to say it's generally. So I'm going to start and you can finish. Generally, on a postcard, we let the voter know whether there's early voting, when it is, has it started, what are the issues that the community has said important, vote for the candidate who will best do. And then there's a series of issues. We tell them on the label, there will be the website address of their county registrar, the phone number of their county registrar, so that if the voter has any questions at all our voters have phones, they don't all have computers or are able to use them. We make sure that they will be able to reach someone in their county who can answer an election question for them.
Right.
So yes, we are nonpartisan. We are not selling candidates. Generally, we don't even mention the candidate names.
Yeah.
Or if we do, we mention both parties.
We mention all the candidates,
as we
right?
have
Which is
to.
why we normally don't mention any candidates. Right.
I think
mean,
runoffs are an exception, like the Georgia runoff.
yes,
where
yes,
we've
because
mentioned-
by then there'll only be two candidates. Yes, we've got one race in Alabama where there are 21 people running. There are 13 people running as Dems, and there are 8 people running as Republicans. We did that race as a texting operation so we could list all 21 candidates. We have to list all or none.
I'm getting a question about a couple of times. I did answer it, Christine. I don't know if you saw it, about whether we can give them voters their polling location. That is something we can do in phone banking. We can get very, very specific in phone banking. But what we do have are these pre-printed stickers or information labels in the middle of the postcard. Here's a sample card. Right here, we put a sticker, and that has precinct or county specific information. So we can divide, these big states up into those, that level of information, but we can't possibly go so micro as to have everybody's polling place on a postcard. And states like Georgia sometimes change the polling place at the last second. And once upon a time, before we had these wonderful labels, we tried to, remember a few years ago, we tried to cram so much information onto a Georgia postcard that writers complained. So we try to keep the handwritten part, pretty general, specific to issues and specific to voting early. We really want people to vote early. Bring friends because it's less intimidating and more convivial. Bring your ID, and in Georgia, it's a photo ID. So we say, bring photo ID, and also avoid long lines because you've seen them on TV, how horribly long the lines are in Georgia, in Black districts in particular. No problem in white districts. It's ridiculous. But, some states don't require an ID. So, we try to get as specific as we can. And then they have either the URL or the phone number to call if they don't know their polling place to get accurate information there.
All
And,
right, and then,
And
Sorry,
also, we don't do registration anymore. We used to, but there are organizations that specialize in that. And we're more concerned with registered voters who don't vote.
Mhm.
That's
right,
who we're
we
going.
prefer to help voters stay on the voting rolls than to keep registering them over and over again, because we register them, they don't vote, they get kicked off the roll. We register them again, they don't vote, they get kicked off the rolls. Registering the same people over and over and over again. So we try to be the fence around the edge of the mountain to keep people from falling off the mountain rather than the ambulance down in the valley. Josie,
Yeah.
I dropped the link to our fundraising page in the chat. Do you want to help people out? Fundraising is going.
Yes, I can do that. And then I just get mindful of time. One person asked a little bit about canvassing. Andrea, could you quickly first address that and how folks can maybe, if there's going to be canvassing with democracy centers, if people can get tapped into that, or if it's really not something that we're connecting people to right now?
Well, there will be canvassing in the districts where we're working. So that means that there will be canvassing in Georgia 6, Georgia 13, Virginia 1, 2, 5, 7, 10. There will be some canvassing. There are places where we have democracy centers and or partners that we're working with on the ground, where it will be easier for us to canvass in those areas. So it depends on where you want to canvass. So we are looking at building out canvassing. We're going to start building that and identifying areas where we believe if we can get the people, we should be able to do some canvassing. We'll be working on that in mid-March.
Thank you. And then I guess to close us off, I'll touch a little bit more on our fundraising. So a lot of folks on this call have been helping us fundraise $115,000. This money is going towards getting this great data that we want to use so that we know when you're writing your postcard or making the phone call and leaving a voicemail, you're most likely getting the right person. And we're, I think, at about week 5 of 8 in the fundraiser, and we've raised about $83,000 total. So we're really close, but we still need to make it to 115K. So we would love your support in this, either by donating or by starting your own peer-to-peer fundraising page via the link that I'll put it back in the chat again, where you can invite your friends and family to donate to your page. One thing to note, there are a lot of postcard writers here today. The person that gets the most people, not the most money, donating to their page will get some free postcards. So we love free postcards, especially in this economy, especially with stamps being more expensive. So we'd love for you to participate. And I will also put my email in the chat so that if you are interested in starting up a peer-to-peer fundraising page, I can help you get started with that.
All right, and I am dropping my email address in the chat. I'm Andrea at Center for Common Ground. Josie is Josie at Center for Common Ground. And we are delighted you joined us, and we welcome your questions. Now, when we get ready to begin phone banking, you will definitely know, because we offer training every week for phone banking. If we are going to be doing texting where people are sending individual texting, we will let you know, and there will be training for texting as well. So again, we're just not quite certain whether we're going to do peer-to-peer with outreach circle, which takes a very long time and a lot of effort to set up, but it's cheap, or whether we want to go with the bigger broadcast system that give us variables and allow us to send pictures. So one of our Georgia people on the ground was saying the big problem with the Georgia primary will be, as Ray said, the Black voters all got shifted around into different districts. So we don't want people going in to vote expecting to see one set of candidates and then to discover when they go to vote that now they're in another district. And apparently right now, the Georgia Secretary of State, my voter page, still has people in the old districts. They have not corrected the districts yet. Yes.
Alrighty. Well,
So we follow all that. We really, really do. All right. Again, thank you all for coming. I know we ran a little bit over, but technically only a minute because we started at 9:04. Have a marvelous, marvelous evening, and please feel free to send any questions to me or Josie. Bye. Good night.